right, my friend. Good to be back. Realcomm Live.
Absolutely.
Let me just kind of recount the journey. Orlando. Were you in Nashville?
No.
Okay, so
I missed Nashville. Yes.
Orlando. We did an event in COVID. I think you may have come in remotely for that one.
Yep.
So feels like about 4 or 5 years.
Right. Easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I would consider Emmanuel not just a leader in this industry. I would consider you a friend.
Yep.
You have saved our butts in more cases than I care to admit, bringing the Microsoft brand, supporting us. And it is important when you're dealing with transforming an industry to have a big brand like a Microsoft who stands behind it, that gives us credibility. But number two, for Microsoft to find people like you who actually know what they're doing in the space of real estate and technology. And those are two different languages. Right? Square footage, vacancy, occupancy, and then again, you got bits and bytes and frequencies. So they're literally two different languages. And I think I told you or shared with you on one of our last calls that there are very few people in the world that straddle that fence like you. Right?
Thank you.
So give the audience just a little background. I know we've done this before live on Fridays, but just give them a look for those people who might, because we're going to post these in through the end of the year.
Right.
Who are you, where did you come from, and how did you get here today?
Yeah, great. I would love to, Jim. And first of all, Jim, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and delight to be a part of the Realcomm IBCon community. The collaboration, the friendship, the learnings, and the impacts have been monumental.
Wow, thank you.
Both in terms of sharing, both in terms of collaborating. Like you said in one of the Realcomms, Jim, you made that comment, I found my people, right? So whenever we come down to these events, it's a set of people shaped by the same ideals and philosophies coming together to make the world and the spaces that we operate in a much better place.
And what's interesting to me is that these are stubborn people.
Yep.
These are not people looking for shiny new objects, get bored quickly, jump onto the new trend.
Right.
I mean, some of these people in this community have been here 20, 25 years. Maybe they change a company or two, but they're not letting go that this real estate thing needs to be fixed.
It is, so with that, real estate is a very sticky profession. And I say it's sticky because we don't change our profession every couple of months or every couple of years. We have longevity. And the reason we have longevity is because it takes time when you're working with people and people in spaces. My journey of engagement with humans in spaces started all the way back in Singapore.
I remember. Yeah.
I'm from Singapore. Singapore's home for me. And so we started there. It was about how do we make real estate and facilities operations attractive so we can get the next generation of college graduates saying that, I want to manage buildings, I want to operate buildings, because they have such a huge impact on our environment. So sustainability was the focus. I took out sustainability and I said it is foundational. But why do people want to work in physical spaces, and what is going to make that space attractive is a direction I wanted to take at Microsoft.
Well, let's peel back that a little bit. I mean, I've traveled the world, and I'll tell you, there's out of the top 3 most innovative places in the world, Singapore.
Right.
And I was given a book, I never read it, it's a big one, about your premier or your
Lee Kuan Yew.
What was his name?
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew, who realized that Singapore was this relatively small island nation that needed to differentiate itself. And you had a country plan?
Yes.
That I think it was 15 years ago, I read it. You decided what industries you wanted to go after and how smart your people. What is it about Singapore that these ideas seem to germinate in this small little piece of the world?
So in Singapore, the biggest thing that we acknowledge is people are our resources. It's not a country that's rich with natural resources, but it is rich with brilliant people, with amazing people that have the will to thrive, survive, and to make an impact in the world. And that's what the founder recognized. So for him, it's about how do we empower the people to be greater, bigger, and better. It's a small, tiny nation, but it's got brilliant people. And with that brilliance is how can we export that brilliance all across the world so we can allow people to be better versions of themselves.
Well, and what's so funny is that the DNA from Singapore is in this room in a big way. I mean, I'd say the intelligent building conversation within our community got accelerated 10x when we visited Capitol Tower. I think I told you probably 19 years ago.
Right.
Carrie Gunnasingham slept us through Capitol Tower, which was at the time was probably the most automated building in the world. Then you fast track to Marina Bay Sands and the work they were doing with Anno Schulten, whose company was bought by CBRE, who's going to be talking tomorrow about artificial intelligence, which is Anno, which goes back to Singapore. It's like there is a lot of smart thinking and smart people coming out of that region, right? So you leave Singapore, you go to the Middle East, you do magic there with BIHA, right? A little explanation of BIHA.
Yeah, for us, when we started running around with engagement and experience, the other prime market that was looking at building new buildings and focusing on employee engagement, people engagement, was the Middle East. We got the opportunity to work at BIA. They were building the office of the future, and they came and said, hey, how can we make this office a place where people would love to come and work? Right? And I would say when someone says they want to make it a place where people would love to come and work, they don't truly understand what that means. Right? And that's where we started getting into the details of defining what does that mean, what are you looking to achieve, and that's where you finally realize that, hey, this should be the world's first AI-enabled building. Because you had smart buildings.
And how many years? 4 years ago? 5?
4 years, 4 years ago, because that was my last engagement before I moved to Redmond and started focusing on digital transformation of our East Campus. So we did the world's first AI-enabled building. And now when we look at all these concepts that have started to come out, you then start to see how technology is converging together with the sole purpose of making people feel happy and empowered in the spaces that they operate.
Or at the very least, allowing them to do their jobs, whatever they are, at a rate or like we have virtual Sarah hanging in our meeting today. And people, well, what's that? Well, we've got a human being with all the AI engines at her disposal. She's not here. She's literally in Montana. She's been listening to the entire meeting. Kay Sargent made a comment, was asked a question by me. She gave me the answer. I was walking by the screen. Sarah did a chat GPT, almost came up with the same answer as Kay, but my point is, if you could walk into a meeting and have the room help you do what your job is, what a different world that would be. If connecting with somebody in Singapore or Montana or Los Angeles is not a cumbersome task, it's just part of the day. But I have been in more than my fair share of conference rooms in the last couple years. Those conference rooms are pre-COVID ready with that 55-inch screen with the camera pointing in the wrong direction and nobody knows how to use the equipment. Why aren't we seeing these changes implemented faster? It seems everybody's sitting on their hands.
So, this has to do with not on the lack of technology, or not on the lack of availability of technology, but this has to do with how do we help people modernize our work practices and be open to change. As much as we say we love change, we're also the biggest resistors of change. And if you look at the FM business, Jim, how modern has FM become? We talk about fault detection and diagnostics. We've been talking about it for over 20 years now.
20 years,
We talk about efficiency of chillers. We talk about better space design. We talk about better quality of data. Better quality of data is a topic that's that's time memorial. That's how long we've been talking about it.
Absolutely.
It takes time to change, and when people get used to a certain aspect of design, they package it, they standardize it, and they achieve a point of cost efficiency.
Kay said it in our opening. The architectural design community stuck. The MEP community stuck. Copy and paste from the last project. And that's why I keep going back to the psychology of what's going on. And again, pointing back to Singapore, that's a nation of yes. Let's set the vision. Let's say yes, and we'll figure out what needs to be no. In our country, I think we've gotten a little bit stuck in that we start with no and we say, you better convince me yes. And that's a business management issue. That's not a technology or a real estate issue.
No, I would agree, and I think once a person gets comfortable in what they're doing, they like to be convinced what to do otherwise. When you look at making a building smart, connected, engaging, and empowered, the question is, hey, if I give someone a comfortable chair, they'll be happy. If I give someone a beautiful mahogany desk, they would love how it feels and the smell of that desk. But no one says that, hey, maybe they actually need different kinds of lighting at different points of the day to be able to augment natural light so that their eyes perform better, or they're able to see natural colors a lot more better. Or hey, because of the quality of air and the amount of CO2 with people coming in and out, the air gets stale and we have to increase the amount of air refresh cycles that is there so they can perform at their peak level of performance.
I was in Jake Craig Venter's building, guy who mapped the human genome in La Jolla. 2 people in the room, sensors picked it up, the oxygen output, in one refresh. 15 people walk in the room, sensors detect more CO2. There was no human intervention, the air was just clean. But again, this technology is not new.
Correct, it's not
right?
new.
And so I think, kind of thinking into next year, all of us have to really focus on what is it going to take to get those architects, those MEPs, those senior real estate people to sit down at the table with us, because I think we're at a point where the technology is moving so fast, it's becoming a little overwhelming, and either they make wrong tactical knee-jerk decisions, or they just say, not going to do anything. They just...
The way we would look at it, Jim, and the way I would put it is, if I need to do something for myself, which is going to say that, hey, by doing this, I would have the best of health, I'd say, nah, it's okay, I'm fine the way I am. But let's say if I take it for my kids, and say, you know what, if I need something for my kids, I would make sure that they get everything possible to ensure their best of health, and that's how we need to approach our design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we focus not on ourselves, but on the next generation, and that's where the priority comes in. If we do that, it sets a precedence to say, guys, I'm not changing for myself, I'm changing for our future generations, and that's what we did at Microsoft New Campus.
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things for me, even in the last 6 months, has been my question, is this a 10-year real estate cycle or a paradigm shift? I will tell you, almost everybody's hands are going up saying, this is a paradigm shift. So we built infrastructure for the last 70 to 100 years based upon Henry Ford saying, drive here, drive there. And Bill Gates and Steve Jobs said, no, you don't need to drive anywhere. You can do it right here, watch a movie, go to the office. It's not either or, it's both.
Correct.
And whoever figures that out, I think creates a new category of real estate.
Absolutely right, I absolutely agree.
We're out of time. We always go over. As you know, we could sit here. You just keep the camera on. We're going to go get a beer and keep the conversation going, because I think we just have to keep saying it over and over until enough people hear. 25 years for me has been a long time, but meeting people like you gives me hope. And a lot of young people on that stage today, I was just commenting that there's a lot of new faces and they're under 40, and that's exciting. So the new generations here is for people like me to work with you, and then you work with them, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you much.